Let's dive deeper into why this $500 billion standoff was so pivotal and what really happened behind those closed doors. To understand the true impact of this decision, we need to rewind and see how the legacy of exploitation set the stage for Africa's bold new stance. But the stakes are enormous. By saying no, Africa risks diplomatic isolation, economic retaliation, and missing out on short-term gains. Yet, if they succeed, they could gain true sovereignty, generational wealth, and global respect for a new era. For decades, France and other powers extracted Africa's wealth for pennies, leaving millions in poverty while their own cities thrived. This time, the tables have turned. Africa's new alliance is not negotiating from a position of weakness. They are setting the terms and daring the world to listen. What could possibly be worth more than $500 billion to Africa's new leaders? That was the staggering sum France put on the table, an offer for control of uranium in the Sahel, one of the world's richest and most contested resources. But in a move that shocked Paris and the world, the alliance of Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, rejected it outright. What is really at stake? If the old game continues, Africa's future remains for sale. Its next generation locked out of opportunity, its nations forever dependent on the same powers that once divided and drained their lands. For decades, France mined African soil, extracting uranium and countless other riches. The contracts were simple. Paris took the wealth, Africa got crumbs. Year after year, the true value of these resources left the continent, traded away for tiny fractions that barely touched local economies. The legacy of colonial extraction still haunts the Sahel. Old deals signed in foreign boardrooms locked African nations into cycles of dependency and underdevelopment. While European economies surged ahead, the people living closest to the mines often saw little but hardship and broken promises. For generations, African uranium lit the streets of Paris, while Sahel villages stayed dark. This is not just a poetic image. It is the reality that has shaped lives across West Africa. As French cities glowed with nuclear-powered light, entire communities in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali faced daily blackouts and grinding poverty. This was not a negotiation. It was a battlefield for the continent's future. But change is in the air. This time, Africa came to the table not as desperate dealers, but as equals, ready to rewrite the rules. With history as their witness, the leaders of the Sahel Alliance faced France's staggering offer, not with submission, but with a plan of their own. France's top delegation landed in West Africa with briefcases of contracts, expecting quick signatures and compliance. They thought the offer, $500 billion for control of the region's uranium, would be too tempting for the alliance of Sahel states to refuse. But behind closed doors, they faced not politicians, but hardened military leaders, men forged by years of resistance, not by backroom deals. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Colonel Assimi Goïta, and General Abdurrahman Tiani met France's delegation not with handshakes, but with cold resolve. There was no red carpet, no ceremonial courtesy, just a united front that refused to trade Africa's destiny for cash, no matter the amount. The message echoed through the room, chilling in its clarity. Africa is not for sale, not today, not ever. This was not simply about uranium, or even about money. At stake was far more: pride, dignity, and generational justice. France's offer came bundled with strings: control over the mines, the power to dictate prices, and an extended grip on Africa's economic future. Accepting would mean selling out not just resources, but the hopes of millions for true independence. For the Sahel Alliance, rejecting the deal was an act of defiance with enormous risks. Give in, and Africa's future is mortgaged for another century. Stand firm, and they face the threat of retaliation, from sanctions to political pressure, even destabilization. Yet, for the first time in decades, the balance of power was shifting. African voices, loud, clear, and unyielding, demanded a new path forward. So what happens when Africa turns down a $500 billion offer and refuses to play by the old rules? The answer is more radical than anyone expected. Now, let's break down the revolutionary blueprint that AES leaders unveiled, one that could change not just Africa's future, but the world's entire economic map. Other African nations are watching. So are world powers, whose energy security and economic interests are now threatened by this new independence. The alliance's resolve could ignite a regional movement, inspiring others to renegotiate the terms of trade and demand a fair share of their own resources. If the world refuses to offer Africa a fair deal, Africa will build its own. That is exactly what the Alliance of Sahel States has pledged to do. Instead of accepting France's $500 billion offer, the leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have unveiled a bold new blueprint, a plan to extract, refine, and sell their uranium under African ownership for African benefit. This is not just about rejecting a foreign contract. It is about writing a new story where Africa's resources are finally managed by Africans. The profits from uranium sales will not line foreign pockets. They will fund schools, hospitals, and the infrastructure that has been dreamed of for generations. Roads, power lines, and opportunities will finally reach communities that have waited too long in the shadows of mineral wealth. Real development begins when a nation values its people above paper wealth. So what lessons can the world take from Africa's stand? And what should leaders, both inside and outside the continent, consider as the struggle for true sovereignty unfolds? But the stakes could not be higher. AES is risking more than just lost business. They could face economic retaliation, international isolation, and even destabilization efforts from those who have much to lose. Yet for the first time, the chance to break the so-called resource curse is real. Success would mean lasting independence and dignity. Failure could push the region into deeper hardship and political turmoil. The world needs to pay attention. The age of extraction without real investment is over. If these lessons are embraced across the continent, it could mark the end of centuries of loss and the dawn of generational prosperity for millions of Africans. For far too long, foreign contracts have stripped Africa's riches while returning little to its people. The Alliance of Sahel States has drawn a line in the sand. No more deals that treat their nations as mere sources of raw material. True partnership demands more. It means local control, fair market value, and real reinvestment in the communities that endure the costs of extraction. This bold rejection of quick cash is sending shockwaves beyond the Sahel. Across Africa, other governments are now reconsidering long-standing agreements and asking who truly benefits. The model set by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is not just about uranium. It's about self-reliance, dignity, and the right to shape a nation's own destiny. We're already seeing the alliance negotiate new kinds of deals. Instead of signing away their minerals for foreign dollars, they're demanding infrastructure projects, technology transfers, and agricultural investment, terms that build lasting value at home. Every barrel dug, every ounce shipped must now create jobs, power schools, and put food on local tables. But after drawing this hard line, what comes next? As the ink dries on old contracts, Africa's next chapter is about to begin, and it could change the global order. So what kind of world do you want to see? Will you support a future where Africa's wealth benefits its own people? Or will you watch as history repeats itself? The choice belongs to all of us, and the time to decide is now. The stakes could not be higher. If Africa's gamble pays off, it means not just the end of colonial contracts, but a new era where Africans write their own rules and own their own future. It would inspire every nation that has ever been exploited to rethink what's possible. But if this stand fails, the cycle of dependency and broken promises will continue, and the world may once again turn its back on the hopes of millions. Africa just drew a line in the sand. Will the world listen, or will history repeat? The rejection of France's $500 billion uranium offer by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger isn't just news. It is a turning point for the entire continent. For generations, Africa's minerals have powered foreign cities, while its own people paid the price of poverty and dependency. Now, the Alliance of Sahel states has said no more. They are choosing dignity over dollars, self-reliance over exploitation.